Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this big blue world. Welcome to this very special book launch of Glenn Millar, musician, community worker, and obviously now author, Made to Parade, Hecho para Marchar.
So, buenos días, buenas tardes, donde estés en este mundo. Bienvenidos a la presentación del libro de Glenn, que a mí bien dice, Hechos para Marchar.
My name is Ami Yaris. I am the executive director of Build a Bridge International. We're an arts and education nonprofit that uses the arts to promote hope and healing in populations that have experienced trauma and hardship.
Hola, se llama Ami y es el director ejecutivo de Build a Bridge Internacional, que es una organización benéfica que usa el arte para ayudar a la gente.
And we have Ariana is also going to introduce herself as well. She is a Youth for Peace ambassador. And Ariana?
Yes, my name's Ariana. As Ami well said, I'm the Youth for Peace ambassador, but I'm acting as a translator today. Se lo diré en español, yo me llamo Ariana y formo parte de Beyond Skins, que es una organización benéfica aquí en Irlanda del Norte, y hoy voy a traducir.
So Beyond Skin is an incredible organization that does peace building through arts and culture. And so today we have some guests who are going to join our conversation, and of course, special words from the author himself, Glenn Millar.
Así que Beyond Skins es una organización benéfica que ayuda a la gente por medios de arte y por la música. Y hoy tenemos a Glenn que nos va a hablar sobre su nuevo libro.
And so this event is in partnership with Beyond Skin in Northern Ireland, Fundación Nacional Batuta in Colombia, and Build a Bridge International. And we are in Philadelphia. And we ask you to comment and interact with us via the chats that we have in YouTube and Facebook.
Este evento está vinculado con Beyond Skins en Irlanda del Norte, Babuta, y con Build a Bridge Internacional, que está en Filadelfia. Y queremos que nos digan preguntas en Facebook o donde tú estés viendo.
Thank you, Ariana. Muchas gracias. And now we're going to hear a little bit of music from Glenn and the artist known as Robinson, who is a street artist, an incredible human rights activist in South America.
Ahora vamos a ver Glenn y vamos a oír música de Robinson, que es un artista y activista.
And now, without further ado, I would like to invite Glenn Millar to our broadcast.
How you doing?
Ahora,
All right.
¿cómo estamos? ¿Estamos bien?
All right, folks. How are we? We good?
Lovely today, Glenn. It's so nice to see you. It's been quite a while since we've been in the same space.
Yeah, I think the last time we were together, Amy, was at the Shango Road.
It was actually seeing a flute band together. That's the last time that we saw each other.
Yeah, very good.
Están diciendo que la última vez que se vieron fue viendo una banda de flautas juntos.
So, Glenn, before we start, could you tell us a little bit about your connection to Robinson Sanchez and the video, and how did this go about? Why is an artist in Northern Ireland interacting with an artist and social worker and community worker in South America?
A mi pregunta que si Glenn nos puede decir más sobre su relación con Robinson, cómo se pusieron en contacto, ya que son de lugares tan distintos.
Yeah, I mean, I met Robinson through Beyond Skin and a project called an arts project that we were involved in, and a collective, the Arts Dialogue, it must be about 3 years ago, and obviously there's been some ongoing connections since then through Beyond Skin.
Pues Glenn nos dice que conoció a Robinson por la conexión que tiene con Beyond Skins en un proyecto que tuvieron que se llama Arts Dialogue hace 3 años.
Yeah, and then this wee bit was done through the Make Music Day on June the 21st. There was a number of collaborative projects that were put together, and I just happened to get Robinson's artwork to put some music to.
Y esto se hizo por es un día que se llama Hacer Música, y apareció que tuvo el número de Robinson y así se conocieron.
So thanks so much, Glenn. I have to speak to Arts Dialogue for a second. Arts Dialogue is an incredible international collaboration that Beyond Skin spearheaded a number of years ago, that crosses the globe from South America to North America to all over Europe to the Middle East, and now even stretching out to Japan and then other parts of Asia.
Pues es una forma de arte, de diálogo, que cruza el globo, Make Music Day, es decir, y hasta Japón llega muy a fondo.
So now we're going to invite some other esteemed individuals into the conversation. Darren Ferguson, the humble founder of Beyond Skin, who will never tell you more than that about what he does for Beyond Skin, and 2 incredible guests from an organization that's also new to me, and that is Batuta. So welcome, Darren. Welcome, Andrea, and I'm going to bow out for a little bit.
Este es Darren. Darren es el fundador de Beyond Skins, y Andrea, que trabaja con Batuta. Sí, lo he dicho bien. Muy bien. Batuta.
Nice to be here, and nice to see you all together as well for this book launch. So I'm delighted to be a part of this, and I've followed Glenn from the start of the idea of the book, so it's nice to see it now flourishing.
Darren nos dice que es bueno estar aquí en la presentación de este libro, que ha visto los inicios y ahora está tan orgulloso de que con el producto final.
And just very quickly about Beyond Skin, so we've gone for 16 years, and it's about using the arts and creativity in shared learning regarding our place as humans on the world. So peace building is a big core of what we're doing, and we work not only in Northern Ireland, but we've worked with our partners in Colombia and partners in Philadelphia, Build a Bridge, and other countries around the world.
Darren nos dice rápidamente un poco sobre Beyond Skins, que ha estado aquí 16 años y es una organización benéfica que ayuda a conseguir paz por todo el mundo y ha tenido relaciones con Colombia y con Filadelfia y con muchas otras partes del mundo.
And I will hand it over to Andrea, actually, to introduce herself.
Hola, muy buenos días, tardes, noches a todos y a todas. Mi nombre es Andrea Rodríguez, pertenezco a la Fundación Nacional Batuta y bueno, traigo primero que todo un saludo muy cálido para Glenn y para Darren y para mí de parte de María Claudia Parias, la presidenta de nuestra organización.
Andrea says that says hello, good day to everyone, and that she brings with her a huge hello to Darren and to everyone here, and Amy and everyone today.
Bueno, la Fundación Nacional Batuta, para contar un poquito, nació en 1991. Y hace un trabajo en toda Colombia en el área musical y psicosocial, trabajando con poblaciones en áreas vulnerables, buscando la reconstrucción del tejido social.
She's telling us that her organization was founded in 1991 and it works through all of Colombia and it works with people who have, impoverished or hard-earned places.
Well, wonderful. It looks like we have some time now to ask Glenn a few questions about the book and why we're here today. So who would like to Diwali the first question at Glenn?
Go easy on me.
Ahora vamos a... Uy, perdón, sorry. Ahora vamos a preguntar a Glenn algunas preguntas que tenemos sobre su libro.
So I suppose, Glenn, even just writing the book, what was that experience of actually doing that? I'm not sure it's the first time you've put a book together, but what was that experience?
Sorry, go ahead, Ariana.
Glenn, ¿qué fue tu experiencia en construir este libro, en escribirlo y en todo eso?
It was initially, Darren, it was quite exciting, and then when I actually got into writing it actually became a bit of I wouldn't say a nightmare, but it became a thing of like going, oh my God, how much do I actually have to write here? And then because it was situated, so the story was situated in the 1980s, actually with me being so old, remembering what it was like back then was pretty hard.
Glenn nos dice que inicialmente fue emocionante empezar este libro y este nuevo reto, pero después dijo, madre, qué difícil es, cuánto hay que escribir para este libro. Y nos dice que fue un poco difícil tener que recordar todas esas memorias y cómo era antes.
But it's been very fulfilling, Darren, as well, because I got to, connect with some people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and to hear their recollections of their interactions with me back then was amazing, and it was the insight that those people provided me and really inspired a lot of the work that I ended up writing.
Glenn nos dice que le encantó porque al fin y al cabo pudo hablar con gente de antes que estaban en esa época con él y le encantó revivir esos momentos.
And I'll hand it over to Andrea and Amy for to kind of probe you as well. Come back to you, Glenn, to see if they pick up on anything.
Andrea, por favor.
Mariana.
Oh, Andrea, ¿tienes alguna pregunta para decirle a Glenn sobre el libro?
Sí, Glenn. Quisiera que nos contaras un poco por qué te parece importante escribir sobre esta historia hoy en día.
Andrea is saying, if Glenn, you could tell us why you think it's important to tell this story nowadays, like in today's times.
Yes, Andrea. From one of the things that it's strange about music in Northern Ireland is that it has the capacity to divide, where it also has great capacity to bring people together. And the bands that I was a part of can be seen as quite a divisive issue in Northern Ireland. However, there's a lot of positives that are involved in being a member of the marching bands in Northern Ireland, and I felt that it was important that story, that narrative was told.
Glenn dice que lo que es diferente con Irlanda del Norte es que la música puede dividir a la gente o puede atraer a la gente a estar más cerca. Y quiere dar la historia, muchas veces las bandas especialmente dividen a la gente, y él quería dar la historia de que muchas veces también puede unir a la gente.
Yeah, there's a quote that says that understanding is deeper than knowledge, and I think for me, being able to understand what being a member of a marching band is all about might go beyond what people think they actually know. So this is the first time that I know of that the inside story of a member of a band has actually been told.
Glenn nos dice que hay una cita que le encanta y que de eso ve que ser un miembro de una banda es algo que es muy bueno, y que cree que es la primera vez que la historia de un miembro de una banda ha sido escrito en una historia.
So I have a question for you, Glenn. My question is that, so you learned to play music together as a band, but what were the not music related things that you learned by being a part of this band?
A mí pregunta Glenn que qué son las cosas que no tienen que ver con música que aprendieron en estar en esta banda.
That's a great question, Ollie. I think some of the things that I would say that I learned was, one, about learning to listen to people, learning to listen to what was going on around me, and being able to know where I fit in to all that. And I suppose that helped me with my communication skills as well. I learned how to work more as part of a team. You know, it wasn't all about one person. It was about a lot of people coming together to create something together.
Ben dice que aprendió a escuchar realmente a las personas que le rodean y a trabajar en equipo, no solo lo que va de la música.
Yeah, and I suppose for me, it's about, the other thing that comes out of it is about maintaining relationships and dealing with conflict in a positive way. I know that sounds kind of strange, but when you're friends with 40 odd people in a musical setting, sometimes tensions, you know, things get heated, and you need to know how to deal with things in order to make sure that it doesn't impact the cohesiveness of the group. And I think that was something that was really important that I learned as part of that it's important to talk things out and get things aired.
Glenn nos dice que algo muy importante que aprendió es que cómo mantener relaciones, y que las tensiones no destruían relaciones, y cómo resolver esas tensiones de una manera positiva.
Okay, go ahead, Andrea.
Thank you. Glenn, ¿puedes contarnos qué papel tiene el tiempo, como el proceso? Nosotros aquí en Batuta tenemos procesos más o menos de 3 años. ¿qué tan importante es el tiempo para esta transformación de la persona?
Andrea is asking, can you tell us what role time plays in this role of like changing a person, of a person transforming their life, I guess?
I suppose in my context, it was different things happened obviously at different times. There was different growth at different times. And I suppose for me, the process of learning has been ongoing. You know, I'm still developing in those areas that I've already mentioned in terms of developing relationships, communication, and maintaining things with each other. But I think for me, the first sort of 2 years that I spent in the band really helped form those key skills and helped me realize that, you know, that there was a lot more to life than the trouble that was going on around me.
Perfecto. Glenn dice que en su contexto sigue creciendo y que en las áreas que ya ha mencionado, con eso de saber cómo solucionar problemas en la banda y esas cosas, que pues eso, que sigue creciendo y que sigue intentando afilar esas cualidades. Dice que en los primeros años de estar en la banda que le ha ayudado mucho a crecer y es ahí donde ha aprendido mucho.
I'm not sure if that answers your question, Andrea, but I think I know for me it's a process. It's not an overnight. It's not an overnight thing. You know, we don't unlearn some of the things that we bring into our relationships overnight, and it's a steady process, and it's been able to take feedback from people and learn from people who have a lot more wisdom than I do.
Glenn dice que no sabe si ha respondido muy bien a tu pregunta, Andrea, pero que es todo relacionado con feedback y crecer y saber mejor con los años esas cosas.
Thank you.
Andrea says she understands.
Right.
Well, let me ask you a question that we ask in Build a Break a lot about what we do with art making. And the question is, what's the metaphor of playing in a band for you? What does it represent? And you hinted on it a little bit, but I think I'm interested in the transformative process that you went through by playing in the band. And you mentioned a few of those things before, but in a more concise way, what do you think the metaphor is of playing in a band?
That's quite the question. Thanks.
A mí le estaba preguntando a Glenn que en Build a Bridge suelen preguntar qué es la metáfora de tocar en una banda para ti. Así que le está preguntando, pues eso, qué es su metáfora para tocar en una banda para Glenn.
If I was trying to be arty about this, I would be saying that for me the metaphor is the flute. You know, it's if I'm trying to make it right in my head, the process of becoming more proficient on a flute means that your note has to get sweeter, your note has to get more refined. And I think for me, at the start, that's kind of rough. Whenever you're learning an instrument, things are kind of rough and ready, and you make mistakes and that kind of stuff. And then as you learn from watching other people and practice, that your sound becomes more refined. You start to develop a tone that's your own. And I think that for me is maybe the best metaphor that I can come up with, that it's helped me develop a tone in life that is mine. And that when I'm not saying that whenever people hear me playing the flute, they'll know it's me. But for me, it's like it's a tone of mine. I know the difference between me playing and somebody else playing. And I think hopefully that comes across okay there. But that's the metaphor that comes to my mind, is actually learning the instrument itself And Ariana, great, good luck interpreting that.
I will try my best. Glenn nos dice que la metáfora para él es la flauta. Pues con la flauta es siempre con tocar es un proceso. Al principio siempre cometemos errores, pero luego con tocarlo mucho lo tocas mejor y entonces tu entonación es mejor. Y dice que es igual en la vida. Cometes errores, pero aprendes de ellos y ya te haces mejor persona. I hope that was it.
I'm just going to agree. But no, I think, the more technical you become, I think the more that you can add to your repertoire as a player. And I think that plays out in life. The more skills and the more that you add to your life, the more people that you can actually connect with.
Glenn nos dice que cuando lo toca mejor, pues, o cuando lo tocas mejor, pues así sabes más y con más experiencia puedes añadir más a tu vida. Y es igual en cualquier aspecto de tu vida. Más sabes, más sacas de la vida.
Frente a esto, en Batuta también hemos entendido que es tan importante el proceso relacional como la música que hacemos. ¿Qué ha significado en este proceso tuyo la música, digamos, hacer música y el tipo de música? ¿Cómo ha colaborado en ese proceso?
Andrea is asking that she, in Batuta, she sees the importance of the relationship and of music, and she's asking, like, what role does that play with you, en su relación con la música, Andrea?
Sí, digamos, la música como tal que ha sido para él en ese proceso y el tipo de música, los repertorios.
Okay, so what your relationship has been with music and also the type of music you kind of play.
Music is for me is a daily experience, Andrea. For me, it's something that I try to play every day. I try to do something new every day. I try and come up with something new, or I try to learn something new every day if I can. The type of music that I play is very eclectic, as the video at the start will probably give you an idea that, that there's a lot going on there. I mean, the flute was the first instrument that I learned to play. However, I've added maybe 5 or 6 instruments since then.
Glenn nos dice que, sí, en español, sí, eso es, yo me confundo. Glenn explica, Andrea, espera, que me confundo otra vez. Glenn explica que la música para él es una experiencia diaria. Quiere aprender algo nuevo o tocar algo nuevo todos los días. Dice que lo que él hace es como ecléctica, su sentido de la música es algo ecléctica. Eso es lo que le gusta tocar.
Okay.
Yeah, so it ranges from sort of military music, which I would play in bands, and also through to like heavy metal, folk, whatever. I just, whatever seems to come out. That's what comes out, So, and I try, one of the things that I'm really passionate about doing at the minute, and that's what maybe comes across in the video, is trying to blend the marching band music with other forms of contemporary music, So there was some Spanish tinged flute playing in the video, with some Scottish-based pipe drumming, with some rock guitar and all that kind of stuff. So it's trying to mix those styles together.
Él nos dice que le gusta la música militar hasta la música heavy, así que le gustan muchos tipos de música. Pero ahora quiere mezclar la flauta con otros estilos de música, con la guitarra y esas cosas, pero también diferentes tipos de música.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a question from somebody from South America. from Catalina Caraño. And question is, hey, from Colombia. My son is in Batuta, and we love the way how music transforms our lives. How is this going to inspire? How is your book going to inspire our children?
Catalina nos pregunta desde Colombia, dice que su hijo está en Batuta y que le encanta la música, que les transforma sus vidas, pero cómo Glenn o su libro va a inspirar a sus hijos.
I think for me, the message behind the book is that even in the midst of any form of trouble, and I think, obviously Colombia has experienced a whole ream of troubles itself, that in the midst of that, music is a solace. Music is a place of peace, and things can change as a result of being involved in music. And it's no matter how hard things get around us, that for me, the flute is a friend, as I've said, that never lets me down. And that for me was the inspiration through some of the things that I experienced and the troubles in Northern Ireland. Was the one thing that I knew that I could always depend on that would bring me some form of satisfaction and peace was playing the flute.
Glenn dice que Colombia, como Irlanda del Norte, sabe lo que es el dolor y la guerra y que la música puede transformar esto. Puede ser como un tipo de escape para la gente. La flauta siempre para él ha sido como un amigo, algo que siempre le ha ayudado en estos tiempos o en esos tiempos.
Well, we have another question, and this one also someone from South America.
So, shall I say it in English first? Yes. Maria says, "Hi, Glenn. Congratulations for the book launch." She wants to know how music has transformed your life. She says you're doing a brilliant job. That this is, and especially that this is going to help children with vulnerabilities.
Okay. I think for me, the music, in terms of what the book is about, I mean, it finds me in the midst of Northern Ireland's troubled past, and the area that I grew up in, was a very troubled area, and there was a lot of young people who I grew up with who are no longer here because they got involved in things that they potentially shouldn't have. And I don't want to belittle their memory in any shape or form, but being involved in music stopped me getting involved in things that could have taken my life in a very, very different direction. And for me, I'm thankful that it did that. One of the things I talk about in the book is coming home from practice, and my street is like a war zone. There's bottles and glass and burnt out items everywhere. And for me, music was a safe place to be in the midst of all that.
Glenn nos dice que el libro para él es cuando él estaba creciendo y estaba en Irlanda del Norte. Creció en una zona muy violenta y dice que muchos de los que conoció o que conoce desgraciadamente ya no están por la violencia, y dijo que la música, nos dice que la música le ha ayudado a no meterse en esos tipos de problemas y que para él la flauta le ha ayudado muchísimo en su vida y en evitar esos tipos de problemas.
So, Glenn, I have a question as well, leading on to what you've said about, a sense of peace as well. Obviously, we're in the midst of a pandemic at the minute, and mental health is going to be one of the huge kind of outcomes of that. So what, I mean, maybe can you explain a bit about how the bands anyway are helping young people, especially young men, with mental health, and how it plays even a bigger role given the situation we're in now?
Yeah.
Let Ariana.
Darren está preguntando a Glenn que ahora, como estamos en esta pandemia, le pregunta que cómo las bandas ayudan a los, especialmente los chicos jóvenes, a evitar, ¿sabes?, lo que estamos viendo ahora con esta pandemia y cómo nos afecta, y tener esa sensación de paz.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously well documented the impact that the music has on our mental well-being, and I think one of the things that's been evident through the pandemic with the band is that they have found just innovative ways for them to keep connected with each other and still practice together. I know that some of the bands that I would know of, they kept their learners classes going via Zoom. And they were still teaching people to play. They were still trying to find ways of, getting music to people and finding time to spend with them. And I think I think for me, I've done some work around the bands and mental health and things that bands are doing to try and help their members. But I think they stepped that up a level during the pandemic in terms of trying to make sure that everybody stayed connected.
Nos dice que ya sabemos que la música ayuda a nuestra salud mental, pero que la banda ha seguido viéndose en Zoom y esos medios y practicando y hablando mucho durante estos tiempos, que ha ayudado mucho a los miembros.
They also, there was a few forums and stuff that ran ongoing, like online competitions as well, Darren, and encouraged young people to take the lead in that. And one of the London Dairy Bands Forum recently just handed out some awards for the people who created pieces of music, and the majority of people who were involved in that were young people. And another thing that they did that was great during the pandemic was that they followed on with an idea that I had mentioned in an article I wrote for Beyond Skin and the Fit the March program. And they took that on a digital level, and they walked millions upon millions of steps. And that whole idea of keeping yourself physically active in the middle of a pandemic really helped people, to stay connected, but also to keep their sanity.
Glenn nos dice que también han habido competiciones en línea de las bandas y que hicieron o pusieron hicieron una idea que él había tenido, que es Fit the Band, que es para que los miembros de las bandas corran y así están haciendo algo para su salud en estos tiempos también más turbulentos.
So we have another question from our audience. This one comes from Pablo Nieto.
Pablo is telling us, hello, a great job.
How to contribute?
How do you contribute music practically to people in these times of kind of confinement and isolation? So how does music help, I guess, people in times of confinement? But we've kind of gone over that a bit.
Yeah, I think we have. We kind of hit on it a wee bit there, Andrea, and Pablo. It's a great question, and I think just providing people with the platforms or using what's available for us to stay connected has been a great way of doing that. And I think one of the things that the pandemic and what inspired me to do was to actually share more music, share more things that I was creating rather than just practicing and coming up with things myself. It was actually, let's share this. You don't know what's going to happen as a result of sharing this with people. And it was amazing when I was doing just short arrangements of like sort of Irish tunes or well-known tunes within the band scene, and trying to make them a wee bit different. That the amount of comments that I got with listen, that really helped me get through today. I really enjoyed that piece of music. When you put in something else, I think it inspired us to create more and to share more.
Glenn te responde Pablo y dice, Pablo, gracias por tu pregunta. Dice que usando plataformas para conectar y compartir más música, o sea, en, no sé, YouTube y estas cosas, ayudó muchísimo y ayuda muchísimo a la gente y que él mismo ha estado compartiendo más cosas.
Bueno, me gustaría compartir también que algo que nosotros hemos notado en la Fundación Batuta es que esto le da a los niños y niñas que pertenecen a los programas una sensación de normalidad, la sensación de que la vida sigue siendo la vida que ellos conocían y pues también la música les permite seguir como teniendo un canal de expresión de sus sentimientos. Y pues como hacemos también un acompañamiento psicosocial, pues la sensación de tener un cuidado, ¿no? Una compañía constante. Entonces pienso que ha sido muy importante la música en estos tiempos, ha sido muy importante para poder expresar y para poder seguir conectados, pero también esta sensación de normalidad, ¿no? De que seguimos estando juntos y un poco de la vida que conocimos o que conocemos.
Andrea is telling us that she wants to share that she found that for the kids she works with, that music is helpful so that life stays the same and gives a sense of normality. And it helps the children to channel their emotions and almost have a friend in music. So it gives them that sense of normality and to express how they feel.
Yeah, there's almost a biological need for this, to be in bands and to play music. I'm not almost, there is a biological need that we're social beings, that we're supposed to be together, to be in community. That's how we learn. We learn from our interactions with our mother to child, mother to father, and then we learn from friend to friend, from person to person. And so being in a band is a very incredible experience. And also being a musician myself, being in high school, I don't know what I would have done without music. Now, I wasn't in any of political turmoil similar to Glenn, but I learned self-esteem, resilience, creativity, posture. All these incredible learning tools come from this band experience. And it's not so much a question, it's just excited to have Glenn's story in the world now to talk about the importance of what it is. And it's not just the act of playing music, it's everything around that. I'm sorry, Adriana, that was horribly long.
No, it's fine. A mí estaba diciendo que hay una necesidad para estar juntos. Nosotros como humanos sabemos que necesitamos estar juntos, así aprendemos. Así que estar en una banda entiende por qué es importante estar en una banda. Y dice que él mismo estuvo en el colegio en una banda y aprendió cómo su autoestima vino de estar en esa banda y muchas otras cosas. Así que dice que el libro de Glenn es muy importante y que te enseña mucho.
Yeah, I mean that's I think for me that's what drove me to the book. The idea of trying to put that out there, was very important to say, listen, there's so much that I got from this, that, as I said before, people don't maybe understand. They see a marching band, they think one thing, and they don't realize the amount of time and effort and practice and what goes into making music, and I suppose that's one of the things that's really been driven home with me, that Darren talks about a lot, is that, the people who are in bands, or especially these marching bands, are musicians. First and foremost, they're musicians. And I think that, and I work in restorative practice, and for me, we talk about humanizing our stories and our experiences, and being able to get beyond what we can see and change our lens on the world. And I suppose for me, I'm hoping that the book might change the lens that people view marching band with.
Okay, Glenn dice que eso es lo que quería hacer con el libro, enseñar a la gente el esfuerzo que viene con ser miembro de una banda y que al fin y al cabo son músicos. No hay que ver la política ni nada de eso en ser miembro de una banda. Quieren ver las cosas y queremos ver las cosas, bueno, él quiere que veamos las cosas desde otro foco, desde otro punto de vista, que no veamos las bandas como algo malo, pero algo bueno.
So right now the questions are pouring in all of a sudden. We don't have a ton of time left. So I'm going to go in order, but also from my very little knowledge of Spanish, this question has to deal with peacemaking in music. So it's very appropriate for all the organizations here and all the people represented here.
Luzmila is asking, hi, well, she says, hi, I would like to know how you think you can make or create peace or peace building with music. And she hopes that each of you can answer from your different points or organizations, your different points of view in organizations.
I'll start if that's okay. For me, I think in my context, it comes back to what I was talking about earlier about understanding and misunderstanding, and that misconceptions can sometimes be aligned to our perceptions of the world and how we think other people think about us. And I think for me that being involved in music and being able to collaborate with people takes away those barriers that we put up in front of ourselves, and they let us see behind the perception to see the person. And music provides, I think, a platform to help us see people rather than see prejudice.
Glenn te ha respondido Luzmila y dice que ayuda con entender los conceptos erróneos. Dice que la música nos deja ver detrás de esos conceptos y ver la realidad. Deja los prejuicios a un lado y deja ver tú cómo tú eres en realidad y no lo que, no sé, de qué comunidad vienes y esas cosas.
Bueno, desde Batuta, pues hay como varios puntos por los cuales un espacio musical construye paz. El primero sería que se abre un espacio de encuentro que tal vez no existía en algunos lugares. Abrir este espacio de encuentro es la posibilidad para el niño o la niña que muchas veces, por lo menos en nuestro caso, son víctimas del conflicto armado, han perdido todas sus redes. Entonces es la posibilidad de abrir un lugar para volver a crear este tejido. Y lo que nosotros encontramos es que el niño y la niña vuelve a encontrar su lugar, un lugar de reconocimiento, porque aprende la música, porque es valorado por su familia, porque él o ella misma se siente contento de hacer la música. Pero también la música le ayuda, la música genera un alivio emocional en los niños y en las niñas, y sobre todo cuando se han vivido pues tantas pérdidas, ¿no? en el desplazamiento forzado. Y luego alimenta tanto la confianza en sí mismo y la confianza en los demás. Este ya es como un proceso como el que nos viene contando Glenn, ¿no? De cómo se va abriendo la persona nuevamente a confiar en otros y cómo esta confianza que se desarrolla en el centro musical y que es como uno de los puntos que más se rompe en la violencia, la confianza, vuelve a ser una posibilidad para el niño o la niña y que puede usarlo afuera del centro musical.
So, no. Andrea is saying that from her point of view, from Batuta, sorry, I say the word so wrong, but it gives a kind of it gives a safe space to the kids that have come from such a horrible, like a violent and, and not unstable background. It gives them a safe place, and it makes them feel happy to know that they are making music and almost a sense of value, and that it reopens them again, much like a flower. It helps them to come from a place where they've not felt safe and secure, to be able to voice that with music and to flourish almost through music. So it gives them confidence.
I suppose, and I'll probably keep it short. And as a mutual friend of someone called Mark, who said, music does not assist the dialogue. Music is the dialogue. And for me, that's in a nutshell of it. It keeps those channels of communication open, and it creates channels of communication. So I think in the Northern Ireland context of the marching band, when in some ways the music culture is pushed aside, or there's issues around that, that's a communication channel being pushed aside there, and I think it's a vital artery in peace building and in that communication between ourselves and the wider community. And I think that's so important to our human development and our relationships.
Darren dice que, nos da una cita, dice que, como dice Mark, música no existe, el diálogo es el diálogo. En Irlanda del Norte dice que cuando no quieren escuchar música es que no quieren comunicarse, y es vital para nuestra comunidad querer escuchar música y querer formar parte de eso.
I'll just add real quickly in regards to the role of music, and Build a Bridge has hosted a couple different music programs. One was literally an orchestra called Orchestral Dialogues, and the whole point of that orchestra was that through music and through the metaphor of music, to create tangible connections, to be active members of society, and to transform conflict into positive environments.
A mí nos dice que en Build a Bridge hay una cosa que se llama diálogos orquestrales, y ser miembro de esto te ayuda a comunicarte y formar parte de una red más grande.
And the other element I want to add to that is when you're in this process of creativity, that you can manifest peace and messages of peace. And as Darren said so beautifully, our friend Mark talks about music being the dialogue, is that there's a lot of feeling and understanding that can be transmitted through music that doesn't come as easily through the spoken word, or through the television, or through the internet. So it's really empowering music to be heard and amplified, and have messages of hope and peace just more accessible for people.
A mí nos dice que cuando estás en este proceso musical te da un sentido de paz, y que transmite tus emociones que quizás no puedas decir tan libremente con tus palabras.
So we have 3 questions left. I was going to see if I can get them all up at the same time. But they're basically... people would like to know if there'll be a Spanish version of the book available soon. Glenn, it looks like you have a growing audience. Spanish
yes, sí, me gustaría lanzar una versión en español.
And another question is, this is, oh my God, it's like coming in at the last minute. What do you think the role of music will be in the future? Oh, dear Lord.
So, Gianni está diciendo que qué crees que será, o qué música significará, no puedo hablar, en el futuro para nosotros. That's a hard one.
Wow. I think role will play more. I think as over even the last 5 years, science has shown us what music really does in the brain. you know, and how it's a chemical thing and how it's a physical thing. And we've learned more now about music and our the way we function as humans and the way we connect more in the last 5 years than we've ever had. So I think music is going to play more of a key role in healing, in connection, in growing, in our spiritual journeys, and dealing with the things that as humans we're all having to address: the environment, poverty still in the world, people without water, all those basic needs out there as well. I think music is a powerful tool of getting messages across and again open those channels. So I think music is going to play a bigger role as science progress and as we progress as humans.
También nos dice que la ciencia ya nos ha enseñado los efectos de la música, los que tienen sobre nosotros, que es muy importante, que conectamos muchísimo con la música y por curar nuestra alma, etc. Y dice que la música será aún más importante en los años que vienen.
Tal vez es importante también ver cómo los estudios en temas de música y cambio social nos enseñan que lo importante también es cómo usamos la música, cómo enseñamos la música y qué tipo de música usamos. Entonces creo que cada vez entendemos más pues estas pequeñas cuestiones que hacen que la música ayude a transformar.
Andrea is saying that it's important to see how the studies have shown us just the importance of teaching music and the type of music we use. We're going to understand this ever more in the future.
So it would be remiss of us to not hear Glenn read from his book. So Glenn, do you still have any copies of your book? I feel like they're going fast at this point. Do you have any in your possession?
I have one or two left in my possession. However, they do belong to other people. They have been paid for, and I just have to get them to them. So the batch that I originally got is sold out, and I'm waiting on more coming. There's a question there, Ami, from a David Brown. I'm conscious that that's a bit. I think that might be a Belfast question there. Am I okay to address that? Would that be all right?
Yeah, sure. We want to give people some time to hear the book, but also to address some more of the questions. And I agree with you. This question from David Brown's quite important. So you want to address David's question first, and then jump into the book?
Yeah, and then I'll read it. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right.
We'll do the book reading first, then the question. I apologize.
Okay, dead on. No worries. That's cool. Great. Alrighty. So I'm just going to read the introduction to the book, and Ariana is obviously going to do her. She's all well prepared.
I am.
So here we go. The introduction to the book starts with how I first got introduced to hearing the bands in Northern Ireland, and how that became a part of my life. All right, so I'm just about to finish my friend Paul off at a game of Kirby whenever we were rudely interrupted by Dee and Alan. Skidding past the cars parked a wee bit away from us, they came to a somewhat ungraceful stop and started to share the latest news. Lads, it's the bands. The bands are right. They're in the avenue. Come on or we'll miss them.
Estaba a punto de ganar a mi amigo Paul en un juego de pelota llamado Kirby, cuando de forma grosera nos interrumpieron Alan y Dee. Pasaban por los coches aparcados que estaban un poco más lejos de nosotros. Frenaron de repente y empezaron a contarnos las últimas novedades. Chicos, son las bandas. Las bandas están en la calle, están en la avenida. Venga, que nos los perdemos.
Confused, I took my shot at the curb anyway, as my well-beaten opponent abandoned the game and headed off in pursuit of Dee and Alan. Come on, Glenn, it's the bands.
Algo confundido, hice otra jugada y tiré la pelota hacia el bordillo. Mi compañero, ya perdido por mucho, no perdiendo por mucho, dejó el juego y se fue detrás de Alan y Dee. Venga, Glenn, ¿qué son las bandas?
Not wanting to be left behind, my victory celebration turned into a rather dainty skip. Thank God nobody saw that. I'd be getting slagged for days. I threw the ball into my front garden and ran after my friends, running faster to try and catch up.
No queriendo que me dejasen atrás, mi celebración de victoria volvió a ser un salto bastante femenino. Gracias a Dios que nadie lo vio. Si no, pasaría días burlándose de mí por ello. Tiré la pelota hacia el césped de mi casa y fui detrás de ellos, corriendo hasta llegar a ellos.
I had no real clue what the bonds were or why we were running to see them, but my new friends seemed very excited, so I had no other choice but to follow them.
No tenía ni idea de lo que eran las bandas o por qué estaban corriendo para ir a verlas, pero mis nuevos amigos estaban muy ilusionados, así que no tenía otra opción excepto ir con ellos.
I think my ignorance requires a little explanation. You see, I arrived here a few years after having been born in Canada, in the city of Catharines to be precise. Most people have never heard of it, but it's located not far away from Niagara Falls, and most people have heard of them. I've no memory of my time in Canada, really only what my mum has told me.
Creo que necesito explicar mi parecida ignorancia hacia las bandas. Nací en Canadá, en la ciudad de Santa Catalina, y llegué a Irlanda del Norte hace unos años. La mayoría de la gente no sabía nada de Santa Catalina. Está situada cerca de las cataratas de Niágara. No tengo muchos recuerdos de mi tiempo en Canadá, solo lo que me dice mi mamá.
My earliest memories revolve around my family moving a lot, or at least it seems that way to me. You see, we used to live in Euston Street, and it holds the earliest memories that I have. I can vividly recall jumping down the curling stairs into the hall and also losing my first ever pet, Buster, obviously not at the same time. Buster was a rough-haired Jack Russell, and one day he just jumped out of the window of the car. I think we'd been coming home from visiting my granny or going to see her. I can't really recall. And it was hot in the car and the window was rolled down. And I remember Buster liked to put his head out the window. This day, he obviously needed something more than the window down and jumped out of the window to go looking for it. My dad said it was because I was wearing a Bay City Rollers t-shirt. I said it was probably because he reminded Buster of a smelly cat. I nearly followed Buster out the window.
Mis primeros recuerdos son en relación a mi familia y continuas mudanzas, o por lo menos parecían continuas para mí. Antes vivíamos en Houston Street. Esa casa contiene mis primeros recuerdos. Recuerdo vívidamente cómo saltaba por las escaleras de caracol hasta llegar al pasillo e incluso cuando perdí a mi primer mascota, Buster. Obviamente las dos cosas no ocurrieron simultáneamente. Buster era un ratonero modejero andaluz, con el pelo siempre áspero, y un día, tristemente, se saltó por la ventana del coche. Creo que íbamos de camino a visitar a mi gran abuela, o de vuelta, no recuerdo bien. Hacía calor ese día, y conducimos con las ventanas bajadas. A Buster le encantaba sacar su cabeza al aire, y ese día debió de necesitar algo más que la ventana bajada, y fue en su búsqueda. Mi padre me dijo que era porque llevaba puesta mi camiseta de los Bay City Rollers. Yo dije que probablemente le recordaba a un gato maloliente. Yo casi perseguí al perro por la ventana. Esas son las dos cosas que recuerdo de vivir ahí.
That's the only two things that I remember about living there. We moved to somewhere called Craigavon next, and all I can recall about there is a shop called Crazy Prices. My ma says that they need to rename the place now as it's full of roundabouts. 12 of them apparently. Maybe some motorway maintenance Death Star has caused the disturbance in traffic flow that somehow required 12 roundabouts to sort it out. Anyway, we moved to Tar Street, which was just up the street from my big granny and granda's house. They weren't giants or anything. They just weren't my wee granny and granda. They lived up the Shankill.
Nos mudamos a un lugar llamado Craigavon después, y lo único que recuerdo de ahí es que tenía una tienda que se llamaba Precios Locos. Mi madre dice que tiene que renombrar Craigavon porque está lleno de rotondas ahora, 12 en total. Quizás el mantenimiento de la autopista Death Star ha causado problemas en el flujo de trabajo y necesitan 12 rotondas para remediarlo. Después nos mudamos a la calle Tor, que estaba cerca de donde mi gran abuela y abuelo vivían. No eran gigantes ni nada de eso, pero no eran pequeños, solo muy queridos. Ellos vivían en el Shankill.
Anyway, back to the moment in question, heading to the avenue to watch the bands. We ran down my street towards Beachfield Street, turning right, and continued on past Westbourne Street. And I walked out onto the avenue to be greeted by a wall of noise and a sea of colour. The sounds of flutes, drums, and accordions filled the air. The sound seemed to just stir the flags and banners that were held proudly aloft by men in suits who walked in front of and behind the bands. It was like I just stepped out into a whole new world. Templemore Avenue wasn't Templemore Avenue anymore. It was completely transformed. I stood there in awe as each band passed by. The bands had their names emblazoned on big drums in the centre of their ranks. Some of their names seemed to suggest something great about the band, names like the Pride of Down and the Gertrude Star. They were loud and proud, walking with their shoulders pinned back and heads held high. My mates transformed into different people, skipping and dancing alongside the bands, waving and shouting at people they knew. This was my introduction to the phenomenon of community celebrity. As I stood there trying to take it all in and make sense of all that was going on around me, a sound cut through all the rest. A different kind of sound, no less proud and no less loud, just different. They marched past in maroon, gold, and blue uniforms with an elegance that said these streets belong to them. And the tunes they played were like magic in my ears, and the sound just drew me in. Wherever they were going, I was going too. My feet seemed to have a mind of their own, and they led me to walk alongside what would become an integral part of my life, being a member of Pride of the Raven Flute Band.
Bueno, hora de volver a cuando nos fuimos a ver las bandas de la avenida. Corrimos por mi casa o por mi calle hacia la calle Beachfield. Giramos hacia la derecha y continuamos más allá de la calle Westbourne. Yo caminé hasta la avenida donde nos recibió un muro de sonido y un mar de color. El sonido de las flautas, tambores y acordeones llenaron la atmósfera. Ese sonido parecía agitar las banderas y pancartas, llevadas orgullosamente por hombres en trajes que caminaban delante y detrás de las bandas. Era como si hubiese aterrizado en una nueva planeta. La avenida Templemore ya no era la avenida Templemore, había sido completamente transformada. Me quedé allí en asombro mirando cómo cada banda pasaba. Las bandas tenían sus nombres en relieve en grandes tambores en el centro de sus filas. Algunos de los nombres parecían sugerir algo grande sobre las bandas. Nombres como el Pride de Down, el Orgullo de Down, y Gertrude Star, la estrella Gertrude. Se les veía fuertes y orgullosos, caminando con los hombros clavados hacia atrás y la cabeza en alto. Mis compañeros se transformaron en diferentes personas, saltando y bailando juntos a la banda, saludando y gritando a la gente que conocían. Esta fue mi introducción al fenómeno de la celebridad de la comunidad. Mientras estaban ahí tratando de dar sentido a todo lo que estaba pasando a mi alrededor, un sonido cortando de todo el resto, un tipo diferente de sonido, de menos fuerte y no de menos orgullo, pero diferente. Marchaban en uniformes de color granate, dorado y azul, y con una elegancia que decía que estas calles les pertenecían. Y las melodías que tocaban eran como magia en mis oídos y el sonido me atrajo. Donde quiera que iban, yo también iba. Mis pies parecían tener una mente propia y me llevaron a caminar junto a lo que se convertiría en una parte integral de mi vida, siendo miembro de la banda Pride of the Raven Flute Band.
Wow, thank you so much, Glenn. That was beautiful. And thank you, Ariana, for the translation.
Thank you. Bit rusty, but it's a brilliant, brilliant book. I love the chapter. It's so good.
Yeah, it sounds better in Spanish.
So before we wrap up, let's take that question from David Brown, which is I think a really pertinent question and part of Glenn's mission in recounting his tales and his memoir of being a part of the Flute band.
David dice que felicitaciones en el libro, Glenn, pero ¿crees que hay una percepción negativa hacia las bandas que es injusta o que crees que de verdad da mucha positividad y que dan mucha tienen mucha influencia con los jóvenes de hoy en día?
David, absolutely. I think that there is a definite unfair negative perception of the marching bands, and I think that that's tied up in our political situation. And I think that what they do bring to young people is a lot of positives, you know, in terms of the things that I've already maybe mentioned earlier on, in terms of the ability to work as a team, to learn to play a musical instrument, to be able to blend in and learn your place within a musical setup and so on, and just the ability to develop long-term relationships with people who are at vastly different age ranges. I think that the impact that it can have on young people's lives is amazing, and I think that I'd love people to see that more than what they maybe see portrayed on the media.
Glenn dice que cree que sí que hay una percepción muy injusta por el tema político que hay aquí en Irlanda del Norte cuando estamos hablando de las bandas, que te deja ver un lugar, que las bandas te dejan ver tu lugar en la música y puedes hacer ahí relaciones con gente de diferentes edades, te ayuda a crecer y que le encantaría ver que esa percepción cambie en el futuro.
So we have well, people want to know where they can buy the book. Glenn, could you share that link for us? And that Glenn, I think, is muted. And that's also available digitally, not just in hard copy too, for you Kindle fans.
Yep, that's right. It is available on Amazon via paperback and via Kindle. Yes, and they can get that on all of Amazon's sites. It's available across the world on all of Amazon's sites.
Glenn nos dice que el libro lo puedes comprar por todo Amazon y en Kindle.
I've just put the link to be able to get the book in the chat as well. So buy those up, please. This story needs to be told.
A mí ha puesto el enlace para comprar el libro abajo, así que púlsalo y puedes ver esta historia que necesita que la gente lo vea y que lo entienda.
So I think it's safe to say we could unfortunately have to wrap this up, but I want to thank everybody for being a part of this. I want to thank Darren for collecting these beautiful people together in one chat, and Glenn for writing this text that I am very excited. It's literally supposed to arrive like momentarily. I hope it was going to come before this, so I get a chance to look at it. Muchas gracias para todos, and yeah, hopefully we'll all see each other in person in the future.
A mí nos dice que vamos a terminar, pero gracias mucho a todos los que están aquí y a Glenn por escribir este libro y que nada, que nos veamos pronto en persona.
And just to add a thank you to all of you. It's even just wonderful getting us all together, doing our work across the world and linking with Batuta and Build a Bridge and Beyond Skin and Glenn being the catalyst to that as well. And a huge thanks to Ariana, who's facilitated
Thank
this
you.
discussion.
Not very well,
as
but
well.
I've tried. Darren dice gracias por tener estos vínculos con todas estas organizaciones tan bonitas, con Batuta, que a ver si de una vez lo digo bien, y con Build a Bridge International, y claro a Glenn también por ser la persona que nos ha ayudado a encontrarnos y a reunirnos en una ocasión tan bonita como esta.
Can I just end by saying that Darren, I have to say, I know I've said it on the book itself and all, but I think, the belief that you've shown in regards to trying to promote the bands as musicians, I think you need commended for that one, because you take a risk with the work that you do, and I want to say thank you on behalf of the marching bands for the work that you've done in terms of trying to make sure that people see us as musicians. Man, I think it's been it's a commendable job that you've done on that, and I want to thank you for your support. And to me personally, I don't just consider you someone that I'm collaborating with, but it's someone who's become a true friend, and I want to thank you for your input in my life, man. I really appreciate it, and for believing in this book too. I remember us sitting in the black box about 2 years ago, and you brought me up on stage to talk about this, and it wasn't even anywhere near ready to go, and yet here we are today doing an online launch around this here, mate. So thank you very much, and Ami, thank you for hosting this, man. Really appreciate that. And you've done a great job there. It's been slick and professional, man. So great job. And Ariana, regardless of what you think, I think you've done an amazing job with the interpretation. It's been fantastic, and
Thank you.
It's been great to listen to. And Andrea, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us and to share some of your own insights in regards to the impact that the music can have on the lives of young people. And for anybody who's been listening, thank you for taking the time to spend part of your Thursday night with us here. It is Thursday, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we're going to give Ariana the task of translating that whole.
Glenn nos despide con decir, primero, gracias a Darren por ser un verdadero amigo y gracias por ayudarle con las bandas, con el trabajo que hace para que la gente vea que son músicos, no solo, sabes, algo político, porque la verdad es que son músicos. Y a mí, gracias por presentar esto y por ayudarle con todo. Y a Andrea también por lo que ha ayudado y lo que hace con música para los niños. Yeah. Thank you.
Gracias igualmente desde la Fundación Batuta. Y bueno, me parece que es importante encontrarnos, tanto las personas que estamos aquí en el panel como los que están viéndolo, porque significa que queremos construir juntos a través de la música. Entonces, esto siempre será bienvenido e importante.
Andrea nos dice que for Batuta, it's important to get together just like this, even on the panel, but for everyone watching. And for us, music will always be important.
And I think that's us.
So yeah, I can actually, gracias, thank you, buenas noches, buenas tardes, buenos días, and salud. To your health, everybody. Let's do this again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.